Nation, thank you for joining us in this live stream. Today we'll show you how to make your transparent header sticky on scroll with Divi and the theme builder. So if you haven't checked out Divi yet, make sure that you do. I've mentioned a link in the description below, and without any further ado, let's get to it. Alright, so let's start off by taking a quick look at the outcome of this tutorial before we get into the tutorial steps. So at the top over here, you can notice a transparent header, and this looks, transparent when you first enter the page, but as soon as you scroll, it becomes sticky and these styles change. So there's a white background color, the text color has been changed, the logo has been inversed, and also we picked up the button that was first overlapping the top header bar and we placed it in the second bar. So we'll show you how to do that using Divi and the theme builder. Let's take a quick look on smaller screen sizes as well. So over here, let me scroll to the top. We have, again, this top header bar, and then we have a transparent menu. If I click this, we have a dark background with white text color. Now, if I start scrolling, this changes in style and becomes sticky, and if I click this, the styles of my drop down have been changed as well. So we'll do that we'll create this using the Divi theme builder and the new sticky options that Divi provides you with. So let's get started. Also want to mention that you can find a link to the blog post with all of the steps written down and print screens as well by going to the link in the description below. So over there you can grab some color codes, and you can also download the template file if you want to get started with it right away. And yeah, let's get started. If you guys have questions, make sure to leave a comment on YouTube or Facebook, and I'll be keeping an eye on those. All right, let's get started. So over here within the Divi theme builder, I have this global header already, which is the one that I've shown. This template. Alright, so once we're inside the template editor, we're going to select the first option, which says build from scratch, to start building right away. Alright, so we are going to start off by designing the first section, which is the top header bar over here with a CTA of your choice. So you can place anything you want in here. We're just going to, enter a text module, but you can customize this however you want. Using the Divi theme builder. But first we're going to style the section that's going to contain this text module. So I'm going to open the section settings, go to the background settings, and give this a black background color. Next, I'll move on to the design tab, and I'm going to remove all default top and bottom padding that you can notice over here by adding 0 pixels to both options. Then I'm going to add a new row with 1 column and place a text module inside that. Inside that column, let me just grab the copy really quick so I can enter it, so I don't have to type it over and bore you guys to death. All right. I'm going to paste this over here. Then I'll move on to the design tab, and I'm going to change the text font to Oswald. I'm going to enable uppercase, and I'm also going to change the text size across different screen sizes. Use a white text color too. I'm going to use 19 pixels on desktop, 18 pixels on tablet. I just enabled the responsive icon, 18 pixels on tablet and 16 pixels on phone. And I'm also going to use center text alignment over here. All right, let's switch back to desktop. So the style that we're creating, let me just show you guys really quick. The style that we're using for this particular header matches the travel agency layout pack really well. So this is the one. So we're using those styles to create the header, but you can style this however you want, but it goes really well, as you can notice, with the travel agency layout pack. If you want to check that out, you can go to elegantthemes.com/layouts and search for travel agency. All right. Now that we have this top header bar, we can focus on the second bar, which contains our menu and which will, make transparent at first sight and turn sticky afterwards. So this is where all of the magic will happen. So everything really regarding this tutorial that's very important will happen within this second section over here. So I'm going to add a new regular section. All right. And I'll start off by removing the top and bottom padding of my section. Now this is very important. The way we're going to make this, bar that contains our menu sticky is by turning the row itself sticky as opposed to the section. So it's actually the opposite. I mean, like, we're going to turn these sections sticky, but the row itself will be absolute positions, if that makes sense. So that's going to be the transparent part. The row is going to be transparent part, and we need to make sure that the section itself doesn't actually have any space. That's why we're removing the padding. So say we were not to remove the top and bottom padding over here, we'd have some white space, which we obviously want to avoid if we're going to go for a transparent header. I hope that made sense, but you'll definitely notice further along the tutorial why this is very important. So you need to remove the top and bottom padding values of the section container, right? So now our section container is basically just holding our row, which will, contain all of the sticky styling, which will be made absolute positions. So we have this kind of transparent effect. Now, to create our row, we're going to use the following column structure wizard, which is the following one that I'm hovering right now. And I'm going to open the row settings. And over here in the background settings, I'm going to make sure that my background color is completely transparent. So you'll be able to tell by the 0 at the end. So this could be anything. As long as there's a 0 at the end, that means it's completely transparent. Let's just take a completely transparent black color over here. Very important. This will make sure that everything below the row and thus the menu will show up. So you will definitely need to assign a transparent background color to the row. Then in the design tab, in the sizing settings, as you can notice over here, it kind of takes up almost the entire width of the screen. So to achieve that, we're gonna add some custom sizing settings. We'll start with the custom gutter width by toggling this to yes, and we'll use 1. Then for the width and the max width, we're using 100%, which basically just stretches the entire row. In this particular state that we're in right now, the size of the section and the row container are exactly the same. So it reaches both sides. So the row reaches for the left and right side of the section container. In the spacing settings, you can definitely notice some left and right padding over here. We're gonna add that to the padding value. So this is still part of the row container itself. That's why we're using padding instead of less width. By adding padding, we're making sure that this 10% space is still part of the row container. It's kind of the same as using, like, if you were to modify the width over here to like 90 or 80%, for instance, that would be kind of similar to using 10% left and right margin. And that would mean it isn't part of the row, but we want it to be part of the row. That's why we're using 10% left and right padding instead of modifying the width or adding margin. All right, and we'll also add a box shadow. And right now we're gonna go for a completely transparent shadow color, which will change later on in a sticky state. So you can definitely notice that here, that there's no box shadow. But as soon as it's turned sticky, and you'll notice on a white background color, there's a subtle box shadow, which helps separate the header from the page content. So later on, we'll use these settings and change the shadow color in a sticky state. And now a very important part to making the entire row transparent. So the row containing all our modules, which we'll add later on, is going to the position settings over here and selecting absolute position. And we're using top left over here. So this will just remove kind of the container space that's taken up by the row itself, and it will place it on top of whatever comes next, which is the hero section in this case, and in most cases the section container still exists, but because we removed the top and bottom padding, so the default top and bottom padding, it doesn't show up. There's nothing tangible there, if that makes sense. All right. And then in the column 2 settings, we're going to hide the entire column on tablet and phone. And you can see that within the preview on smaller screen sizes that we don't have the button here, because you could leave that in there and style it a certain way, but it will definitely create a more complicated design, if that makes sense. So in this case, we're just opting to hide the second column on smaller screen sizes to have this beautiful design going on. And on desktop, we're keeping that button with this nice effect where it goes down in a sticky state. All right, now that the general row settings and column settings are in place, we can add modules, starting with a menu module in column 1. And I'm going to take a quick look to see if you guys have any questions. See that you are following along. I want to say hi to everyone that's just joining in. If you guys have questions, make sure to leave a comment on YouTube or on Facebook. I'll be checking on those. All right, so over here, we've just added a new menu module to column 1, and we've selected a menu of our choice. Next, we'll select a logo as well. And just grab whatever I can find. Just gonna copy because I can find it in my library, I'm just gonna copy the logo really quick. Here we go. There we have the logo. Let me just close and open this again. All right. And by default, a menu module has a white background color, so we're going to remove that entirely. This will just leave us with a transparent background color, so we don't need to set this to transparent or anything, but we're removing it. And then we'll style the menu text settings over here in the design tab. Again, we're using the style that's based on the travel agency layout pack. So this goes really well with it, but you're free to use any kind of styling you want and modify this using the technique that we're showing within this tutorial. So we're using Oswald for the menu font, a bold menu font weight. We're enabling uppercase. Let me just grab the color code for the menu text colors. It's kind of very light gray color. We're using 18 pixels for the menu text and right text alignments. So this will place our text on the right side of the first column. Then in the drop-down menu settings, we're giving a completely transparent color to our drop-down menu line colors. So if I go over here, usually you have this kind of top line. I'm not a super huge fan of it, so I tend to just use a transparent color for it, so it goes away kind of. And we're also using a almost entirely black mobile menu background color, so it just has 5% loss of color, so it's 5% transparent. And in the icon settings, we're going to use a white color for each one of the icons. So basically the way that you use colors over here will depend on the background color of your hero section. So you'll definitely want to make sure that this is universal. So each one of your pages starts with, for instance, a darker hero section background color, or you can just use a differently styled header for specific pages that don't have a dark hero section background. But you know, depending on what color your background is, you'll want to either go for a lighter color for your drop down menu, for your drop down text and your menu text in general, or dark. Really depends on your hero section background color. So over here we're just basing it off the hero section of the travel agency layout packs landing page, and we're going for a white on dark, and then in a sticky state we're turning this into dark on white, which we'll do later on. All right, and over here in the logo settings, since we're going for the light on dark kind of color palette in a default state, I'm also going to invert the image. This will just make it slightly gray, very light gray, which will look great on a darker background. And then in the sizing settings, obviously we want to modify the size of our logo. I'm just going to assign 40 pixels as the max height of my logo. And in the spacing settings, we're just going to need to add some top and bottom padding on smaller screen sizes, so tablet and phone. This is where we'll use 10 pixels for the top and the bottom padding for both options. And the reason why we're doing that is to have, if I go back to the preview, to have a little bit of space at the top and the bottom, which we don't need on larger screen sizes. So these are the spacing settings, and now we can add a button module as well to column 2. Let me just add the button. Some copy over here. Then I'll move on to the design tab and use right button alignment. I'm going to style this button as well. Use 16 pixels for the text size, a white text color. Let me add a background color as well. So this kind of red, pink kind of background color. I'm going to use that same color for the border. And I'm going to add 0 pixels to the border radius, so I'm basically removing it. 4 pixels for the letter spacing, and again we're matching the fonts with the travel agency layout pack. I'm enabling uppercase, and over here in the spacing settings I'm just going to give it an overlap. So over here you can notice that it overlaps the first header bar, and it also overlaps the second one where it's placed in. And to do that, we'll add minus 70 pixels, and I'm also going to add some top and bottom padding, 25 pixels for both the top and bottom padding of this module, and this gives us a following result in a normal state. And in the next part of this tutorial, which is starting right now, we'll show you how to make the sticky effects apply. So basically we're just prepping the container. 2 important things to mention is the fact that we removed all section spacing, so 0 top and 0 bottom padding, so the height of my section is basically 0. And the row where we placed all the modules in has been turned absolute within the position settings, which means that there's no actual space taken up within the section container of the row container itself. So it's there, it's kind of floating above the page content, and it doesn't take up space in the section container. That's why it doesn't show up. Like if I hover this, you can see that the size, so you can notice blue on the screen. This means that that's the size of the section container, which is 0. And then we have a row with a transparent background color that's absolute positioned, which will appear on top of our page content, as you can see over here. All right, so now we can make the sticky effect apply. So the sticky effect is going to be applied on the section itself. So that's the thing that's going to be turned sticky. I'm just going to take a quick look at one of the questions on YouTube and then I'll continue. Can you use an image swap for the menu logo during sticky scroll? Yes, and you can swap it. And I'm actually working on a tutorial that's gonna show you guys how to do it. So stay tuned on the Elegant Themes blog and you'll be able to follow it step by step there. All right, so I'm gonna add a sticky position to my entire section container, which doesn't have any height to it because we're using an absolute positioned row. So over here within the scroll effects in the advanced tab of my section, I'm gonna select stick to top. We're using 0 pixels for the top offset. You can modify this however you want. And there's no bottom sticky limit, and we're just keeping these two as yeses. Although in this case, we're not, you know, it's not really relevant, but just in case you're like modifying some sticky settings on your pages or whatever, it's good to leave these on. And we're also doing a transition from the default and the sticky styles, which is, you know, you can see it, it's kind of, you can determine that for yourself, how slow or how fast it goes within the transition settings of each element, which you can find over here. So you can set a duration, a delay, and a speed curve. All right, so now that we have turned the section sticky, let me just give you guys a real preview over here on the page that we've been working on. So over here we have the preview that, so this is what we've done up until now. If I scroll, it sticks to the top. Now, obviously, we still want to make some changes that will change the look and feel of our row containing the menu when in a sticky state. So I'm going to reopen this template over here. And we'll start by modifying the background color. So we'll go for a white background color in a sticky state. I'm going to show you guys step by step. Each time I make a modification, I'm going to show you guys in real time what that looks like once I save it. Over here, I'm going to go to the row settings and enable this sticky option over here at the top. Go to the sticky settings and I'm going to use a white background color. Now let me just save this, show you guys the difference. All right. Here we have a white background color for our row. Next up, we're going to change the row spacing. If I go to the preview over here of the tutorial, you can notice that it's kind of shrinking, giving it a more pleasant look for the eyes and allowing more content to show up within the page. So to do that, we're going to go to the spacing settings of our row. We're going to enable the sticky options and the sticky option on the padding, and we'll remove the top and bottom padding by adding 0 pixels to the top and the bottom padding of our row. So over here, this is without the removed padding. Let me just refresh. You can definitely notice that there's less space being taken up by the menu because we removed that. We're also going to add the shadow color to our box shadow over here. So right now in the default state, we have a box shadow, but it's completely transparent. And now the only thing we need to do to actually have a box shadow is enable the sticky option and change the shadow color into something more visible, which shows up already. And we're also going to bring back the positioning of our row to relative in a sticky state. So this will just, you know, allow the row to take its place up again within the section container and not just float on the page itself. This isn't a necessary step though, because it worked up until now, but I do want to add that in there. And then we'll change some things about the button and the menu, starting with the text. Because we have a white background right now, we're going to go to the menu text settings, enable the sticky option on the menu text color, and use a black text color instead. We're also going to go to the drop down menu settings, and over here we're changing. In a normal state, we have a black background color with white text. In a sticky state, we have a white background with dark text. So we're going to change the mobile menu background color in a sticky state into whites. And same goes for the icons. Since we're using opposite colors in a sticky state, we'll want to change each one of these sticky colors into the opposite color, being black or any kind of darker color you want. All right. And I'm also going to bring back the logo, which I have inverted by going to the logo settings over here and enabling sticky options on the image invert and bringing this back to 0%, which just removes the filter. And the last thing we'll want to do is obviously bring that button down once it's in a sticky state. So we'll just open the button settings. I'm going to switch over to wireframe mode really quick so I'll be able to open these settings a little easier. And I'm going to go to the spacing settings, and over here, so we have this overlap, and we can bring this back to 0 in a sticky state, so it becomes part of our sticky section as opposed to being part of both kind of header bars. So by just adding 0 pixels to the top margin, brings it back to the header bar on scroll. Let me just refresh this. And here we have our transparent header, and if we scroll, it turns sticky and the styles change. So we have our button over here that was first overlapping both header bars, and everything has kind of been inversed. We have a white background color, darker text, darker color, and in the normal state, we have this transparent header. So that was the tutorial. I'm gonna take a quick look at the comments section just to see if you guys have any questions. Serdan, I hope I'm saying that right. I was looking for this just yesterday. Thank you so much. You're welcome. I hope you guys were able to follow along and enjoy the new Divi sticky options. I've been enjoying them very much lately. You can definitely expect more. You can definitely expect more tutorials on how to use the sticky options. And then on Facebook, when you click preview, why that white page jumping? Wait. I'm just trying to refresh it here. Maybe I missed it. I mean, if you're talking about the space at the top, it's, you know, just because I'm inside the, WordPress website itself. So that won't be an issue if you're just, previewing it outside the WordPress website that you're logged into. All right. So that's going to be about it. I don't see any more questions. So that's it for this tutorial. If you liked it, please give it a thumbs up, and we hope that you're enjoying this ongoing Divi design initiative where we try to put something extra into your design toolbox each and every week. Thank you for watching, and I hope to see you in the next one. Bye.